Good evening, everyone. Welcome to session 3. For our session today, we do have Spanish translation available for our Spanish-speaking families. If you would like to listen on the Spanish channel, please click on the globe at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Translation will be provided by Benjamin Hawkes with Constellation Consulting. I'm Krista Martinez with Constellation Consulting. We are pleased to assist the New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department with the 2023 CYFD Resource Family Conference and Virtual Webinar Series. This event is funded by New Mexico CYFD, and our live sessions will take place each Thursday evening in April. For more information about the Resource Family Conference and our upcoming presentations, please visit our website at cyfd.org, Resource Family Conference. Today's session includes a welcome by Interim Secretary Teresa Casados, followed by a keynote by Marcy Baker-Hinds. Following Marcy, our Quality Parent Initiative panel led by Terry Harrak. Also for today's session, attendees' webcams and microphones have been disabled. If you have a question for today's presenter or panelists, please use the Q&A function within Whova, and we will address as many questions as time allows during the panel discussions. Also, any materials provided by today's presenter will be posted as part of this session within the event app. Following today's session, we appreciate if you take a few moments to complete our session feedback by clicking Rate Session in the session of the Whova app. You can also access session feedback in the survey section of Whova. For those who would like to receive a certificate of completion for this session, you will receive an email with a link to request your certificates. If you need assistance during this session, you can email me at krista@constellationnm.com. Please utilize the Q&A feature or the Ask the Organizers feature within Whova. You may also try emailing us directly. You can view complete bios by visiting the speaker's page for this session. To kick us off, I'd like to welcome Interim Secretary Teresa Casados. Interim Secretary.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys tonight. I just wanted to introduce myself, and I thought this was a great opportunity to do this. I'm Teresa Casados. I serve as the Governor's Chief Operating Officer. I've been involved with CYFD most recently on a Tiger team as we really look at some of the areas that we're working on and try to work on transformation of the agency to meet the needs of our constituency. And most recently was appointed as the acting cabinet secretary while we conduct a search for full-time cabinet secretary and leadership at the department. So I'm excited to be here with you guys this evening. And just to kind of let you know some of the things that we're doing. For those of you that don't know, we had a listening session a couple weeks ago for resource families and providers. Because it's really important to us to understand the needs that you have in working with our department. So you guys are all incredibly important for us in the work that we do every day to meet the needs of the kids and the families. And we couldn't do this without each and every one of you. So I first wanted to say thank you for all of the work that you do for kids in the state of New Mexico, for the resource families, and for being a partner with CYFD. You'll be seeing over the next couple of weeks and even in the next few months changes that we're making, which hopefully will have positive impacts on the work that you do. We'll be working closely on setting up a new micro hub for resource families so that they have a place that they can go to get accurate information that will be the same information across the state. It will provide you resources there that you need to be able to do the work that you do. It'll give you a way to get up-to-date information. It'll have an area where you can write comments or things that you think we could be doing better. It'll have an area for question and answers that'll be searchable. So if you have a specific topic that you're looking for information on, you can search for that. And most importantly, it'll have resource numbers. So if you are having issues, you'll have people that you can reach out to directly. And we hope that all of those phone lines will be manned and answered, and it will cut down on frustration that you guys have in trying to do the work that you do. So that hub will be live on May the 15th. And we'd love to hear your feedback on some of the things that you think could be helpful for you on that site. And so at the next meeting that you guys have, we'll have all the information for you on how to get us some feedback. We're working on making sure that the payment schedules and the reimbursements are streamlined and that those happen quickly and orderly for all of you. And so hopefully that is something that you'll start to see some changes in. And then we just really want to increase and have better communication with all of our resource families and resource partners. And so we're working on what that looks like within the department as well. So I'm here, I'm splitting my time between the governor's office and CYFD, and I'm available if you have questions or concerns or just want to set up some time to give us ideas. I'm available to each and every one of you. So thank you very much for letting me share a few moments of your evening with me tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Interim Secretary. We really appreciate you being on and sharing that information with us. With that, we'll go ahead and move forward on the agenda. I'd like to welcome Marcy Baker-Hinds. You can read Marcy's full bio on her profile. Welcome, Marcy.
Good evening. Thank you, Krista. And thank you, resource parents and CYD for having me this evening. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you tonight. As a resource parent myself, I really am excited to be able to join you. And my hope is that that anything that I can impart, some things that maybe I have learned along the way, and definitely be able to maybe avoid some things that avoid you having to go through some things that that I may have. So again, thank you for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share. So today's discussion is definitely about going the extra mile and how, as a resource parent, that tends to be the norm, whether we think of it or not, that we do go the extra mile. So we will, that we are to think of ourselves as more than just a safe haven, that yes, we are providing a safe place for a child in the interim of when they're working on, the parents are working on them being able to reunify. Yes, we are that safe haven, but far more than that, we provide safety and security and just that belonging. So, definitely want to discuss how do we go the extra mile? How can we continue to go the extra mile as we provide that care? So, we're going to discuss kind of the hows and whys. So how do we go the extra mile and why do we do it? And then what more is it that we can do to continue to provide the best care possible for our children so that they have the best outcomes possible? And then not to forget about, ourselves. How can we continue to maintain the few levels to go the extra mile and beyond? So, the hope is that by the end of our time together, that, as participants, that you would understand kind of that you provide more to the children in your care, far more than just a safe space. That we would talk about identifying ways in which we go and could go the extra mile as a resource parent. And then we'll talk about fostering strong partnerships with all the different people and parties that are pertinent to the children in your care and their prospective plans. And then again, understanding the value of self-care, especially as a resource parent, and that we would make a committed effort to kind of put that into practice. Definitely better said than just done. And though self-care is the last part of our discussion, it is our hope that each of us would begin to put it first in our lives going forward. Being a resource parent is so rewarding, but truth be told, many of us started this journey knowing that the road may not always be smooth. I saw this quote and it very much made me think of life as a resource parent. You have the ability to look at the road with rocky terrain and say, I bet my car can go through there. It may seem a bit unsteady at times, but it'll make it. You didn't choose this path because it was easy. You chose it because of the difference it could make, and many have or will benefit from choice. So what is it that we agree to when we commit to being a resource parent? So this may look familiar to most of you as it is outlined in the Resource Parent Handbook. So when saying yes to being a resource parent, you agreed to treat the children with love, respect, and dignity, respect the culture of the child and the culture of the family. You agreed that you'd be knowledgeable about the child and their youth development, trauma, parenting. You agreed to that you'd be willing to build relationships with that child or youth and their family. You would agree to advocate for children, youth and their care in all the aspects of their lives. And then the agreement was, and the responsibility was to support the reunification of the children and youth with their families. So while those describe the standards, we know that there's far more that we do as a resource parent to ensure the children in our care have all of their needs met, as in going the extra mile. So what does going the extra mile really mean? Well, Webster describes it as to do more than one is expected to do. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that every one of you do far more than what is asked because it's what is needed. And as a parent, we just step in and we do whatever is needed for our child's needs to be met. So go above and beyond, to exceed requirements, exceed expectations, and to go above the call of duty. Does this sound familiar? I'm sure for many of you, it's just your norm. And I applaud you because what you do is nothing short of amazing. And if no one has told you lately, I want you to know right now just how much you are appreciated. And the fact that you're here tonight shows your commitment to always seeking to do things greater. Just know that even in the most trying times, your efforts will never return void. It may seem so in the moment, but the seeds you plant will flourish one day. As a resource parent, I've had different opportunities. At one point, I was a kinship provider for my niece, and she had some struggles, and unfortunately, the decision was made for her to move to another home. I still continue to be a resource to her, but it was just really difficult for her to be there. She wanted to be with her mom, and really just struggled. And she was able to be able to have her needs met better. And so she's now I think 30 something years old, and just within the last month, she contacted me and I was able to be a support to her. And though we've had communication, over the years, I've always been there for her. She most recently shared with me that, that she really appreciated me being there for her. and what it is that I try to do, and that, to help her, and that she understood that. And she apologized for giving me such a hard time, which of course I told her the apology wasn't necessary, but she really just said, I appreciate what you tried to do, and that I want you to know that it made a difference. And so while it may not seem in the moment that what you are doing is helping, just know and rest assured that you are planting those seeds. And it may not be right now, but one day, even if it isn't until 20 years later, you will see the fruits of that labor, and you will maybe even hear it. But even if you don't, just know that it's not in vain. Your efforts are not in vain. So let's take a look at some of the other ways that we as resource parents continue to go the extra mile, and why. We'll do a broad overview kind of some of the ways we go the extra mile, and then we'll explore others deeper. So going the extra mile, while we know we don't always get the opportunity to prepare everything in advance, because often a child or children arrive soon after a phone call. However, there are still things that we can do that isn't necessarily written in a guideline. So an example, like making a child's favorite meal. So a child comes into your home, a call is received saying this child is going to be there. You don't have any information about that child. However, when they do arrive, if you begin to ask them about some of the things that they like, and they, maybe share, that on that next night, being able to provide something that makes them feel comfortable. When possible, taking time out of work to support that child or the child's transition into your home, obviously will help them to make them feel better. Having age appropriate toys or stuffies for comfort, night lights, cuddle blankets, and books, and possibly a frame for pictures of a child's choice. So maybe they come with some pictures, or maybe you can help them along with their worker to be able to obtain some. Again, that this is just showing them that you value the things that are important to them, or that you see that they have things that are important to them, and that a transition can be difficult. Anything that's going to help them to make it more smooth is going to help and go a long way. Going the extra mile, again, advocating for the child's needs, all the different ways in which you let somebody know that there is still outstanding needs for this child, the ways in which you continue to advocate is going the extra mile. And then maintaining strong partnerships with the worker to support that child and the reunification efforts. So as I was preparing my notes for this, a vision of a stork carrying a baby kind of kept coming to mind, which seems a little odd. But with that notion of a stork, a baby just kind of appears from the air. And every child comes from somewhere. And we as resource parents have an important responsibility. Well, we know that the notion, first of all, is fictive, right? But do we really? So as I said, every child comes from somewhere, and we as resource parents have an important responsibility to help to maintain those connections. Supporting feelings around kind of grief and loss, recognizing that the child, has lost something, that they, even if they get to have visits and such with their family, that there is loss that exists. So with every child, recognizing that every child comes from somewhere, that we would be willing to and committed to supporting those birth family connections. So whatever connections that they are, anything that we can do to help support them that isn't contrary to their plan, we are to be committed to going that extra mile to do. Honoring and respecting the child's family's history, their ethnicity, culture, identity, and their religious preferences. We would ensure that sibling connections aren't severed. and that we would, again, go that extra mile to advocate for visitation and communication, unless that it's deemed unsafe by a court. At times, we know that that is the case. That we would be committed to the process of reunification, which means sometimes supporting and facilitating the visitation when possible. That we would demonstrate the value of importance in more than just our words. So it's one thing to say that, yes, that we view family as being important, but what are actions showing? If every time, you know, something comes up that we say, oh, well, we're not able to do that, kind of what is it that our actions are saying? What is it that we can do to continue to invest and to show them that, you know, we value those connections for them? I don't know about you, but my own siblings can drive me batty. And watching my children bicker with one another at times is a whole other story. However, I'd never want to do life without my siblings. My sister and I, we talk daily, and we're the biggest supporters for one another. However, get us in the same room and stay for more than a few days, and one of us ends up cutting the trip short. But then we go right back to being that constant for one another. Barring any unsafe situations or orders from courts, we have to go the extra mile to see that siblings in our care, separated or together, get to experience the love and connection that we see in this picture here. So this quote, siblings will take different paths in life, may separate them, but they will forever be bonded by having begun their journey in the same boat. So we can't deny their history. Their history is together. And keeping in mind that there are times that siblings have even been in a parental role. And oftentimes, you know, placements are able to be found for younger children. And the older children oftentimes go into group care. But I don't know if enough emphasis is placed on the fact that not only is that older child missing their siblings, but this is the person that cared for them the most. You know, at times they were the caretaker. If the parent in the home wasn't able to care for them, they're looking to their older sibling. And that loss that is, you know, that is not there is greater than people are just looking at it as it just being this is their sibling. So when, as a resource parent, we have that, you know, we have a responsibility to them to continue to go that extra mile and to make sure that those visits are being maintained, to make sure that they are, that just like parents have their visits and that they are contracted to have X amount of visits per week, per month, that siblings just as well are to have those visits. And they don't necessarily have to just be, you know, when they're visiting with the parent. You know, get to know the other foster parents. Ideally, siblings would be able to be placed together. But we know that there are times that, you know, whether it's family size, whether it's maybe they're just not able to be accommodated together, that as a resource parent, that you would be even committed to getting together with other resource parents so that it's outside of the realm of a, you know, particular case plan, that the caseworker is the one who is setting up the visits, that you would be empowered to set up those visits with another foster parent, with another resource parent. I can remember I encountered a family. It was a large family set of 7. And this is professionally, I was working with them, and the bond that the foster, that the resource parents had together was amazing. That they met in the courthouse, for one of the case hearings, and they just they connected and they committed to keeping the bonds for those children. And so, whenever that is possible to be able to do that, you don't have to wait for the caseworkers to kind of initiate that in their best of efforts. Sometimes things just, you know, slip, in anything that you can kind of do to kind of bring things to the forefront or make it easier is going to go a long way, especially for the siblings. So what are some other ways that we could continue to go the extra mile? So oftentimes we don't know how long a child will be in our home. For me, temporary became forever and a day. However, what we do know is that the child is with us and we should be including them as much as possible into the home and family happenings. So if you're going on vacation, make every effort to include the child with appropriate permissions, of course. Definitely don't go saying, well, I went to this conference and Marcy said, seriously though, the more that a child can feel they're included, the more they can let their protective guard down. I've worked with many children, young adults, families, and providers, and I use the same guiding principle. And that principle is for them to always feel that they're treated like an individual and that I cared to learn about the things that they valued important. At the end of the day, they may not remember exactly what I did for them, but my hope is that they'll never forget that they or their concerns were valued. Some other ways that you can continue to go the extra mile would be accompanying them to appointments, even if that worker can bring them, supporting their needs, and encouraging participation in childhood experiences. So one of my most favorite quotes by Maya Angelou, I've learned that people will forget what you said, but people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And again, as I mentioned, that, anyone that I'm working with, I want them to know that that I value them, that they are valued, that the things that they do are important. So how we treat and relate to others matters in a big way. And as we push forward, applying everything we know to help the children, we have to really understand that no one person can do it alone. We need to foster strong partnerships. And I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done sometimes, but it is an absolute necessity. So let's look at some of the key partners needed to help the child in their case plan, and we'll explore some ways to strengthen those partnerships. So as a resource parent, full disclosure, I was a child welfare worker for a brief period of time, following being a kinship provider for my niece and several of my other nieces and nephews. So there were four of them and two of my own children at the time. So 6 in the home. I say it all the time. My house never ran more smoother than that. There's less children in my home now, but at that time, there's no room for error. So everything, I had a system, and everything just worked. But following that experience with that and dealing with the workers and such, I came out of the situation kind of feeling like there was so much more that could be done. And I felt like if this is what things looked like and this is what families encountered, I felt like I didn't really feel that the parent, which, happened to be a family member, was supported as well as she could have been, in that, how could families ever succeed if they're not kind of given the support that they need? So, I said, instead of complaining about the system, I'm going to join it and I'm going to be part of the solution. I was absolutely excited to take on that journey. I took the test, passed, became a worker, and had this amazing training that I valued and still use to this day. However, very shortly after, I realized it was not for me. And I definitely feel like I am in greater position to be able to help others in what I do now outside of the system than I did inside of it. However, what I did learn was that, the notion of if a worker isn't doing something, that it's because they just they don't want to, or they're lazy, or they don't think that, the child in my care is important. Absolutely untrue. And what I learned is that they're tasked with far more than is really humanly possible. And so while they want to meet the needs of every child, it becomes really hard. And so this picture here, how it looks like, everybody reaching out and everybody needing help, and how do you help everybody at the same time? And so, I thought about, like, maintaining regular communication with the worker and other parties kind of pertinent to the plan, and not just reaching out during crisis. So taking the time to kind of send a message, whether it be an email, whether it be a phone call, just to say, hey, I just wanted you to know that this child had an amazing day at school today. Hey, they returned from a visit and everything went well. They didn't have the tantrums that they've had in the past. Just letting them know a lot of and then taking on things that we can do ourselves. So while it may be the responsibility, maybe that the worker, has to do a visit or has to do something, when we can do it, that we step up to, and we do it. And then when we do have to reach out when something is really going wrong, they know that it's wrong, because they know that, hey, Marcy normally will, if she can figure it out, or she could do it, or she has, the resources, she knows other places to kind of reach out to, she will do it. So if she's reaching out, there's really something wrong. It enables that. And then you develop that relationship with the worker, like partnering with the worker, partnering with the child advocates, the school officials. Like, all of those things are going to make the difference in how that child does overall. All these relationships, their clinical support team, the value that it has for that child and for the family to be able to succeed is, you can't put anything on it. And again, like I mentioned before, it's hard. It's hard sometimes, even with the birth family. So, I say I have two adopted little ones. Well, they're not little anymore. They've now been with us for over 12 years, which seems crazy. The time just flies by. There was 6 months, and well, they were 7 days old, and one was 18 months old when they came to be with us. The parent definitely, was a young parent herself, and struggled. And so no matter what we did, everything was wrong. I tried to partner with, I utilized everything that I knew professionally to work in this situation, and, was kind of like, okay, I know what to do. Why isn't this working? But at the end of the day, what I can look back in retrospect and realize is that this parent, the loss that they have, and that, they're trying to control something in a situation to where they feel they have no control. So for instance, our while we were fostering, the foster parent decided that, well, no, you can't take pictures. You can't take professional pictures of the child, because they did the first unsupervised visit on Easter. And they told us on Friday that on Sunday would be the first unsupervised visit. We had plans and such. And so while, of course, we supported visitation and supported reunification, it was just like, okay, how is this starting now? Like, why is this? We were notified 2 days before. So we said, well, we had, I was going to take them to take their picture. Could they be back by a certain time? And so the parent just decided, well, I don't want them taking pictures. And from that time forward, decided no pictures can be taken of the child. While it seems so odd and so like, how can that be? How could that even be possible that a parent could stop that? I certainly honored their wishes in not having professional pictures taken. However, I did take pictures because you can't get that time back. So as a baby growing up, you can't go back and snap pictures now when they were 6 months old, because now you have permission. So being able to, like, within reason, and then, understanding, like, while I didn't understand it at that time, but being able to understand that that was just a hurting parent and that they're trying to find control in a situation where they feel like they don't have control. So we've been doing, working with this parent for over 12 years now, and, ups and downs. And there are times that I say, okay, I'm doing this out of the love that I have for this child. I'm supporting this, even when it's difficult, because the parent will, like I said, everything that is done is wrong. But it's still worth it. Despite being difficult and being hard, it's worth it. And for our kinship resource families, it's a whole other level. And definitely my hats go off to you, because the navigating all the different relationships. So maybe you're navigating your relationship with your sister, and now you are a kinship provider for your niece or nephew. And so you're maintaining that relationship, and then still trying to, do the best that you can for this child. It's not easy. So definitely continue to get the support that you need to navigate all those relationships. And it will give you that power and that strength to be able to continue to go the extra mile. So now you've created these great partnerships, right? So you are making those efforts. You're doing the things that you can do to strengthen those relationships. You're reporting, things that are going well, other than just when things are on fire. You've created great partnerships for the child, and their plan is truly supported. Awesome. Let's celebrate. Wait a minute. Have we forgotten something in this picture? What about you? Taking care of others, especially our children, can take its toll, and our few levels can be depreciated and depleted. So what do we do? What does self-care even have to do with going the extra mile? Well, how can we continue to go the extra mile and to give of ourselves if we don't make ourselves a priority? Trust me, I'm talking to me too. It's easier said than done. Hopefully, this doesn't depict any of us here tonight. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. But let's review some ways to keep from getting to this point, in case you have a friend that could use this information. So your needs matter too. Most of all, your needs matter too. And it's very easy for us as parents to put our needs aside to make sure that the child always has it. So you look at this picture, and if you've ever been on an airplane, they tell you to secure your mask first. As a parent, we're always doing for everyone else first. So it might seem odd to be like, why would I secure my mask and my child is here? I have to take care of them first. But if you don't take care of you, then who is going to take care of anyone when you're down and out of commission? Prioritizing yourself is okay. And it's okay to ask for help when you need it. Utilize respite. rely upon your natural supports. That's what they're there for. I'm sure that this information is not breaking news. We all have heard of it, but why don't we do it? How do we begin to prioritize ourselves so that we can continue to be the strong advocates and support for others? Well, we get intentional about it. We plan for it the same way that we would schedule for a child's appointment. We have to do that for ourselves. We put it in our calendar. I'm going to do this on this day, and it's going to be just for me. And we let it be uninterrupted. You know, I look at it, I'm like, okay, you could be cooking, and all of a sudden you may cut your finger, and you look at it, you know, maybe it's even deep and may need a stitch. And what do? You look at it, oh, it'll be all right. You wrap a paper towel around it, or you grab the kitchen towel and you keep going about your business. However, the child could get a little cough and we're like, oh, let me call the doctor. Let me check in. That's well and good. Absolutely meet the child's needs, but don't neglect your own either. You've got to prioritize yourself in this. Rediscover those things that you enjoyed before life became so busy. Did you used to read? Did you used to go for walks? Did you used to, whatever it was that you used to do, maybe you bowled. Before life became busy, there was things that you used to enjoy. Rediscover them. Or take up a new hobby. Exercising has mental and physical benefits. So you want to be able to do that to continue to go the extra mile. Make sure that all of your appointments are up to date. Physical, dental, all of the above. And therapy. We get our children to our therapy appointments. If needed, do the same for yourself. Making sure that, you know, we're easy to put off. We have that physical, we have that dental, something else comes up where the first things we do is we reschedule. Oh, I can do that later. Start making sure that your needs are prioritized as well. And it will allow you to continue to do the things that you do for everybody else. And say no. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to not be all things to everybody. It's okay to not, you know, make the brownies for that next upcoming event at school or such, or whatever it is. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no if things are so rocky and you're asked to take one more child into the home. And you just can't do it. I was talking with a resource parent, and they had expressed that they were contacted to take a child into the home, and it was a teenager. So they were asked to take a teenager in, and they had just had surgery on their foot, and so they weren't able to get around the way that they would want to, and they, you know, the bedroom they weren't able to go up the stairs was the main thing. And the child's bedroom would be, the teen's bedroom would be upstairs. And they just weren't comfortable, you know, not knowing, one, having to learn this teen, being in the home, getting to know them and helping them to transition into the home, and them being on a floor where they couldn't kind of check in with them regularly. So they opted, unfortunately, to say, I can't at this time. And they stated that the worker told them, it's okay, they're a teenager, and actually they could help you. And so she said, you know, I'm, you know, not looking for a caretaker. Like, you know, absolutely, I'm still able to be a resource parent, but, you know, not in that way. So saying no and not feeling bad about it when you're not able to do it. A couple of self-care resources are listed there. You know, nothing earth-shattering, but definitely take time to kind of take a peek at those, and, you know, do a couple of them. Just do something that is just for you. Just being here tonight is doing something just for you. So I hope that you continue on this journey and that you continue to prioritize yourself and that you feel empowered to continue to go that extra mile. And I thank you. I thank you for everything that you do as a fellow resource parent, to help children and their families to be in a better place. You go the extra mile already. And I'm sure you're thinking, wow, like, I do that. Kudos to you. Understand that what you do is nothing short of amazing. Everything you do has value. You are much appreciated. And I thank you for joining tonight.
Wonderful. Marcy, thank you so much. I want to pull a question from the Q&A session. There's a question that asks, when do you know you should go the extra mile or not?
I think you always should go the extra mile. It's when it's about that child's needs. First and foremost, that you're putting their needs first. And so if you're being asked to do something that is meeting the needs of everybody else and that child's needs is not being placed at the forefront, I think that should give you that indicator as to whether or not that this is something that, should be, should be pursued. But always, we're constant advocates for, and we can't assume that everyone else, while yes, they are, they feel that they know it's important for the child and they're invested. That child is with us each and every day, and we're seeing and we're learning the things that are about us. And the child may share things with us that they don't not share with everybody. And so we are to help them to have a voice. So going that extra mile sometimes just means being able to, it's always going the extra mile, but sometimes that extra mile means being protective.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks
you.
so much. Thanks so much for rejoining us. We're thrilled to have our next panel discussion, the Quality Parent Initiative, Resilience Through Relationships, led by Terry Harrak. Terry?
Excellent. Thank you so much. I am excited to be here. I'm Terry Harrak with the Quality Parenting Initiative. Thank you so much, resource parents. We cannot do the work of the Quality Parenting Initiative without you. Thank you for the resource parents who have joined us right at about dinner time. I appreciate you being here. I want to kick off and say, if you are Zooming in with us and watching on the platform, chat in. I'd love to see in the chat where you're from, where you're coming in from, and get to know you a little bit more. So I'll be checking the chat throughout. But again, I am really excited about the panel that we have today. I echo the opening remarks, and I echo the remarks of Go the Extra Mile. And I think the panelists that I have here today absolutely go that extra mile and will be able to talk more about their journey through fostering and foster care. But a couple of announcements really quickly. And again, I'm Terry Harrak with the Quality Parenting Initiative, and this is Resilience Through Relationships. Momentarily, I'll introduce you to Ana Lucia Valdez, resource parent, and Palm Ramirez, our QPI lived expertise advocate. And Palm will also be sharing her journey through foster care. I'm excited to say we are booth number 106. Go check out that booth. Please, please, please. You will find in that booth information about our QPI National Conference next month. And what a great way to celebrate May as National Foster Care Month than coming out to our conference. And you will see in booth 106, we have a coupon. There is a code for you all from New Mexico to be able to register. So please go to the booth, you'll see that code, or use this QR code here. We have an amazing 3 days of phenomenal speakers, but also lots of time to interact and get to know folks from across QPI sites. I saw in advance, there were already questions. I love that. Some of those were, how can I get involved in QPI? What is QPI? Definitely, again, go to booth 106, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is QPI. We're the Quality Parenting Initiative, and it's a strategy of the Youth Law Center to strengthen foster care by refocusing the system on excellent parenting for all children and child welfare. And we do this by taking three main principles. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I noticed someone earlier in the chat had already put in our principles. So I love seeing that. But that consistent and excellent parenting and meaningful relationship is the number one thing our systems can do. Excellent parenting. That's what our child welfare systems have to be about. In addition to that, principle 2 says we need to use research. We need our policies to be embedded in research. Research tells us what children need. Research tells us about trauma and brain development and how we use that research. Principle 3 is engaging, partnering with individuals most affected by policy and practice. Those individuals are in the best situations to offer advice and offer change and be part of that change. I want to quickly just show you this, New Mexico folks. This is your QPI flyer and your QPI brand statement. So if you're familiar with QPI, fantastic. If not, what's going to happen on our panel is you're going to see our principles brought to life by the journey of Palm and her mom, who are going to come on shortly. So please go to our booth 106, get more information there. But without further ado, because I'm calling this like a hit workout, we have about 20 minutes. So this is going to be a really dynamic 20 minutes. I'd like to take the opportunity now to introduce two amazing people. Again, Ana Lucia Valdez, resource parent, and Palm Ramirez. So I'll let the two of you introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Terry. Hi, everybody. My name is Palm Ramirez. I am QPI's new lived experience integration advocate. So excited to be joining the QPI team officially. Also, I have lived experience in the system. So I was in foster care a little under 10 years, but all of my teenage years were spent in foster care, many of them with my amazing mom, who you guys are going to get the chance to meet as well. If you guys have been to anything QPI, I'm always talking about my mom. I just want to let you guys know she is real. She's here. If you guys are not and you guys are going to be getting involved, just know that this is a very big part of my life. So I hope you guys are going to join along for the journey. And I will go ahead and let my mom introduce herself now.
Hi, I'm Ana Lucia Valdez, and my husband and I have been doing treatment foster care for a little bit over 14 years, and we have specialized in teenage girls, and we have had approximately over 15 placements in over 14 years in our home. And we were blessed to have Palm join our family, and our family continues to grow daily.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. And I can't wait for everyone else to hear more about this journey that I've had the privilege to hear about. Relationships through resilience is the name of this session. And if it's okay, I want to kick it off with you. And I have a list of questions, but I'm gonna go off those questions a little bit. You were in several different placements throughout foster care, and I want you to kind of share how the relationship started with you and Ana Lucia, and maybe even tell a little bit about how you met.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I say this quite often, and I will say it 100 times more, that whenever I met my mom for the first time, I was in a very dark place myself. I had just got abandoned by a family who I actually thought was going to adopt me at the time. So I was just really broken down, not trusting anybody, not wanting to be actually with another family. I'd rather have gone to a facility or a shelter even. I did not want to have to go through it all over again. And I think, my mom can absolutely vouch for this. I say this all the time too, is like, people who need the most love are going to ask for it in the most unloving of ways. And man, did I need a lot of love. And the only way I knew how to ask for it was to not ask for it at all and to actually push away anything that I thought was gonna be too loving. So when she first came to see even if we would be a good match, I didn't even get out of bed. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to talk to my dad. I was just like, no, like, make these people go away. I'm going to go to a shelter. And I think just with her consistently showing up the next day and the next day, and if today didn't work for you, if you're not in a good mood today, I'll come back tomorrow, like just so willing to sit there in the muck with me, I think is just kind of like where our relationship started. And believe it or not, even after that, I still was not very open to having a relationship with her, but now it's just, I call her for everything. So it's one of those things where she probably ignores my calls because I call her 30 times from the supermarket asking what kind of spaghetti sauce she uses. So yeah.
Thank you, Pam. And we're going to dive in more to how your relationship grew over time. But I want to give your mom, who, that's not a term you always use. So we'll talk about how you got to that moment where this is your mom. But I want to ask you, Ana Lucia, what made you get into fostering, and particularly having the heart and passion to foster teens?
Well, what did it for me is three main reasons. Is my mother was raised in foster care herself, and she shared a lot of really horrible stories with us. And as a young child hearing those stories, that encouraged me to want to make a difference for these children. I never want somebody else's mother to be sitting there telling them stories like the way my mother told me. And the second reason was I had a very difficult childhood myself, and I probably should have been taken into care myself. And the third reason is I work in a children's psychiatric hospital, and we see a constant turnover of the same kids over and over. And they come to us for help, and they work on their treatment plan, and they go home to a broken home. And we continue to see the same kids come. And so we wanted to help break that cycle.
Thank you. Thank you for your dedication to doing this work. I want to ask the two of you, and either one of you can start. So, I've got a chance to get to know you both. And so this wasn't always a smooth road, right? Talk a little bit about the challenges of developing a relationship. What were the challenges for you? And what were your fears, your thoughts when you were placed in Ana Lucia's home? And then, Ana Lucia, I want to give you a chance to talk about what you saw as the challenges, and then we'll get to kind of what you did to help mitigate those.
I think one of my biggest challenges was that I wanted help, and I wanted to understand what a relationship could be like with a mom or with a dad, with parents in general, which is not something I had. And I didn't even know how to begin to ask for that. And sometimes whenever we don't even know how to ask for something, we get really like not defensive, but defensive. And so I think it was very much like anytime I got close to her, like I'd feel this guilt, and I'd pull away, and I'd be like, I can't do this. Like, I can't put myself in this vulnerable position again, because what if this is not forever? What if I learn all the rules of this person's house? What if I learn exactly how they want me to be the perfect daughter, and then I'm back in the system and I don't have a mom? Like, every time I tried getting close, my head was like, don't do it, jump away, get out of there, run while you still have a chance. And it came off as me being very rude to her, very, like, I want to say for the first
3 months,
I wouldn't talk to her. Like, she'd be talking to me at the dinner table, and I would ignore her and be like, okay, so Ernie, my dad, I was like, well, what do you think about this? I'm going to ask you for advice because she doesn't know anything. I was very, very rude, and I was pushing her away. And I never had a woman in my life, a mom figure in my life that stuck around. So I was like, she's not going to stay. So let me push her as far as I can until she just decides to walk away.
And we're gonna come back to that, because I think there's a particular story where that kind of all comes into one. But let's see, I want to hear from you. What were you seeing as some of the barriers to making this work, and working with Pam to show that you were going to be there for her?
Well, I think she hit it on the head. Was I paid for every female figure in her life that has ever hurt her. And she dumped that on me every single day for 90 days. And it was not easy. But when we started doing foster care, my husband and I both agreed we will never And I repeat, we will never turn a child away. They are not a t-shirt. They are not a piece of material that has a warranty limit. They don't have a receipt that comes with them. They are to be loved, and they are to grow, and we're supposed to be watering them, not damaging them. So we made that pact when we first started of we're not going to turn our back on any girl. And it was painful. It was growing pains as an adult, growing pains for my heart. But we pushed through it. And there was a lot of times where I didn't exist to her. And it was a lot of slam doors right in my face. And we continued to push through that. And we showed her, go ahead and slam a door in my face. And I'm gonna still be here when you open up that door in the morning. Guess who's gonna be smiling at you? And that was me. It was not easy. And but we were consistent, and we stayed sturdy in our relationship with her.
Love that consistency, that show of I'm still here, and hearing from Palm that kind of fear of what about if I get to know all the rules of this home? I've been moved so many times. How do I know I'm not going to be like a Target t-shirt that I'm going to get returned? And having that, being afraid to let go and being afraid to be able to be loved. I want to talk about, and if there's resource parents here who foster and work with teens, put some comments in the chat. I want to hear from you. I'm trying to follow along on my phone, and we'd love to take some questions. But you know, teens and care sometimes get this bad rap. And Lucy, I want to tell me, and I want to give you, Palm, a chance to respond to. But there's this incident that happens at a party, and maybe Palm, you can kick it off of what happened, and then Ana Lucia, you can talk about your response as a parent.
I would like to kick it off by saying it only happened once. It has not happened ever again. But it was some miscommunication. I, for the first time, I got invited out to a party with my coworkers, and you know, my mom had asked me very clearly, like, is there going to be drugs or alcohol? And I said, yes, there is. I'm sure there is. I know my coworkers, I'm not going to lie to you. And she said, okay, just be safe. So to her, it's, I trust you. I know you're not going to make any bad choices. Be safe. Go to this party. To me, I was like, she's giving me free reign. She said, yes, I'm going to take this as far as I can take it. And I got very, very intoxicated. And she actually came to the party to come pick me up while I was intoxicated. And oh man, I thought I was in so much trouble. I was like, this is it. They're going to send me away. Like, I am going back to the factory. I'm malfunctioned. Like, it was very much like a very anxiety inducing time for me. And I've never been, caught so red-handed in something I'm not supposed to be doing before. And I really thought that was the end of our relationship. And it really was just like, she laughed at me because I was devastated, like in the front seat crying. And she was just like, oh no, she's an emotional drunk. Like, how am I gonna talk to her about this? Like,
yeah. And from that moment on, I picked her up from the party. We went home, and you were still in treatment foster care, right? Not regular foster care.
I was still in treatment.
She was still in treatment foster care. So as many of you know, with treatment foster care, there's a lot more rules that we follow, and it's extremely, extremely tight. And I think that was a growing moment for us is children, you know, there's something that mother and daughters keep between themselves. You know, the daughter would come and tell mom, hey mom, I kissed a boy for the first time, or, you know, this happened. And that's something that you keep between you and your daughter. Well, I took a big leap, and this was something that her and I were going to keep between ourselves and my husband. Her caseworker did find out about it. And it was a growing moment for us to be like, okay, this happened. What are we going to do? How are we going to move forward from here? And she was like, well, you're going to take me back to the hospital, aren't you? I said, why would I take you back to the hospital? She's like, well, I messed up. And I said, I know, but that's what you want. And that's not what's going to happen. So we went home. I told her, get your behind upstairs. I don't want to hear any crying, no throwing up. If you throw up, you're going to clean it up. And the next morning I heard Spanish music playing, and she was making tortillas. And she was like, because this is what you do when you go out partying. This is what my mom would do. She would wake up the next morning and make us food. And it was something that we discussed and we moved past it. We didn't continue harping over it. And from that moment there was a little bit of trust that was gained that day. And I wasn't the big bad witch anymore. I could have been mom, and little by little, we started working on that bridge.
I think what I really loved about the whole experience was, I was like, whenever I was like absolutely devastated, how you were just like I don't understand why you're so like devastated about this. Like, this is normal. Like, this happens. Like, yeah, this is not ideal. Like, absolutely not. But even I've done this before, I've had my fair share of getting in trouble for this. Like, now it's your turn to get in trouble. And for me, getting in trouble was such a bad thing, because I was like, once you get in trouble in a foster home, like you're gone. You have to leave. You can't stay in that foster home. They're not going to want you. And with her, it was just so different. This is normal. We like, this is something that I would expect my own daughters to do, and this is how I would handle it. And you're my daughter, so get to your room. And I was just like, okay, like, just like in tears, so confused. Like, I don't understand. This is the point where you give up, and instead we're just still here, like, with each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm happy that you guys shared that, because, that pillar of research and QPI, and we know teens are looking for autonomy. They're pressing limits on things for anybody who has a teen at home. And so, you had experienced all these different placements, all these different rules with people, lots of people letting you down, lots of placements that you had to leave. And then you thought, here I am, I made a mistake, and it's going to be over. And what did Lucia say? No, go to your room and you're in trouble, like lots of parents would do, but I still love you. I'm still here. And it sounds like that was a turning point in the relationship. Can you talk a little bit more about things that worked for you two to grow a really strong connection?
I think what started it off was us being extremely transparent with all our daughters in the home. I wouldn't hide anything from them, and we had a constant flow of communication, and we were honest with them. If I expected them to be honest with me, I was going to be completely honest with them. And I told them that I would go bat for you any day at school. I don't care where you're at. I will go and I will bat for you. Don't make me look like a fool, because I'm not going to go defend you if you're making me look like a fool. And I made that very clear with all my girls, and never did I make myself look like an idiot trying to defend anything that they have done. So I think the biggest thing that worked for us was communication and honesty, and letting them know that things are going to happen. We're all going to fail. We're not going to be successful the first time, but that's okay. That's learning. That's life. And as a child, that's part of how you grow. And as a parent, we're there to love you and support you regardless of how many times we fail, because as parents, we're going to fail many times, and that's part of life.
Yeah, I do have to say that transparency was a really big part of it. And that means, like, even having those tough conversations with me. I remember there was a point in time where I was just on so many medications, like I couldn't even tell you my own name. And whenever I was weaning off some of those medications, there was very big fluxes in my hormones. And I was all over the place. I'd be ecstatic 1 second and then like depressed and lonely for like a whole week, and crying and mopey, and just I could not regulate myself. And I remember one specific time, I can still remember too, where we were at the old house and we were sitting like on the like the lookout, and we were sitting there. I remember Avea was in my lap, my little sister was in my lap, she was probably about 2, and I was just crying while they were sitting here telling me, trying to like listen, like, and to me, like, going to a hospital, any kind of hospital, was horrible. Going to a psych hospital for me was traumatizing, because I was like, this is where people leave me. This is where they leave me forever. This is where they don't want me to come back to them after I'm all fixed and healed. And then I have to go and try doing this all over again. And they were very, very calm with me. Like, it might be what you need to help you come off this medication. And they were doing it in the most loving, open way. And even then I was just like shutting down, and I ended up not going. They stayed and helped me through it, but it was rough. And I just remember, I can still remember that conversation, not because of how afraid I was that they were going to take me to the hospital, but because I knew even then that if I did have to go, I had a home after, and they made that very clear. And they're not the kind of people that say, oh, we'll do this and not do it. So whenever they're like, if this happens, if you have to go, we're not saying you have to go. If you have to go, if you get to a point where you say, I can't do this by myself, I need to go, you are coming right back. We love you. You're coming right back. And I just remember my little sister like turning around in my lap and like wiping my tears, even at 2, and just so compassionate. And I was like, how is this family, like, how are they real? I don't understand. Like, how at every turn that other people have been like, we're done with you, they're still like, come back, just come back. All we ask is that you come back home. And I'm just like, I just don't understand this. Like, but it was definitely like a moment for me where I was just like, how can I not trust you to be there for me whenever you show me that you're there for me around every corner?
Thank you, Pam. And I want to ask you, Lucia, because this isn't easy work, and anybody who's on knows that parenting, I'm not going to say fostering, parenting is not easy work, but it's some of the most rewarding work. It's an additional layer when you're parenting in the foster care system. And hearing from Pam of all the things that you and your husband and your family did to make this work and to show Pam love and consistency, what kind of supports helped you do that? And what kind of supports do you think resource parents need to be able to have that commitment that you did?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think between my husband and I, our work experience in children's psych was amazing. And the desire to actually want to do this, you know, sometimes we have children and they're not exactly planned, but we still have children. But with a resource parent, this is something you have to have an intention of doing. It's just not a part-time thing. It's not just working at McDonald's. You have to have a desire for it. And I think for us, having the support of family, that every time we'd go eat at grandma's house, oh, who's our new granddaughter? Introduce us, who's our new family member? And it was just a constant flow of girls, and having the support of a family was amazing. And another thing is, recently in the last couple of years, we've benefited a lot from social media and support groups that social media has put out for foster parents. And it's just a sounding board for us to express our concerns and ask questions. And that has been an amazing support system for all of us foster parents together, just to realize that we're not alone in this. And a lot of people have experienced the same things. So, and we encourage each other a lot, because there's a lot of frustration, and we help push each other to stay doing this and encourage each other.
Love it. Thank you. So that support groups, having support of family and your community, is there anything particular that you think that the system could provide as a support? You can hold on. You can hold on to that one if you want. You can keep thinking on it, or if there's
no. I think consistency, and having them realize what type of work we actually do. Because we have had, our home is just an open home, and we have had so many caseworkers, so many ICWA workers, so many people come through our home, and they just kind of dismiss it as, you know, checking off boxes. And that's what we are to them, is just another check mark. And it gets really, really exhausting seeing that we're just another check mark to the organization, to the department. We're I think support and consistency would be phenomenal.
I think that's a good answer, and I think that's the model of what you get youth who come into your home. So thank you. And as we wind down with our time, I just want to get to the point where, you know, we introduced you both as, you know, this is Pam's mom, which is an absolutely beautiful thing for a young woman who came into care and moved so much, thinking, I may never have a mom figure. I may not know what that love and connection is like. Pam, can you talk about the moment where this kind of all started to happen for you, where You talk about, getting that 18th birthday and the fear of leaving care, and then calling your mom on one of the worst nights of your life because it was the only number you had memorized, and it was Ana Lucia's number. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think that most young people won't care. And I think this is going to be a frustrating point for any foster parent that's been a foster parent for a long time knows this feeling. Resource parent, sorry, I always forget the change. Resource parent. But once a young person is about to be 18, no matter how good they're doing, no matter how on track you feel like they are, there's this stutter step that happens. This, oh my God, I'm going to be 18. And now it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be 21 because we have extended foster care. But even then, if they don't opt into it, it's still that I'm gonna be 18 and I don't really have a family. Like, I'm with this family, they're amazing, they're here for me every step of the way. And in my head, I'm like, but I'm not their blood. I'm still gonna have like things that I'm gonna need to go to for a family. And what if they're not there? What if I have a fight with them and we're never together again? So I started doing what I did from the very beginning. I'm like, I'm gonna push everybody away now, so I don't have to deal with this. For 4 whole years, I've been with this family. They've shown me consistently they're there for me. They love me. And I can't hear any of that right now. All I can hear is I'm going to be 18 and I have nothing. I have no one. I have no real family. And that's how my head was. And so I pushed them all away. I was horrible to them. And they got to a point where on my 18th birthday, or the day after my 18th, I'm pretty sure on my 18th birthday, I moved out. I was like, I can't, there's nothing here for me, and blew completely out of it. Was like, I'm not going to talk to anybody, blocked everybody, and spent a whole year of my life I can't even remember it all. I can just remember the feeling of that year, that just horrible feeling of never knowing what's to come next. I don't have support. I'm all by myself. I have all these people living in my apartment and they're not helping pay rent. I'm about to be evicted. My lights are turned off. I have an extension cord going to the neighbor's house. Just all these things, everything was just falling apart. And I remember just on my 19th birthday, just thinking I don't know, not a single person had told me happy birthday. Not a single person had even acknowledged me that day. And it was I was just like, what am I doing? What do I want out of life? I'm just this black hole. Everything around me, I just sucked the happiness out of because I'm not happy. And I didn't know where to turn to, or I was just so lost and confused. And the only number I can remember, I just remember sitting at my phone and thinking I don't even know who to call. And there was only one number that was just in my head. The only number I could remember was my mom's number. And I was like, what's the chances that she's going to answer? She's not going to answer. I might as well just call just so I can prove to myself that she's not going to be there. And then if I call and she hangs up right away, then I know it's true. And I called her and we kind of exchanged some pleasantries, and she's just like, what's wrong? She was like, I can tell something's wrong with you. I know I haven't talked to you for a long time, but even the way that you're talking, it's off. Something's wrong with you. And I was just like, everything's falling apart and I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know how to be an adult. And I just remember just word vomiting all my problems at her and just help me, I don't know what I'm doing. And just her being like, calm down. We're going to meet at lunch. I'll pick you up. We're going to sit down. We're going to get you fed. We're going to calm you down because you're on one. And we'll work through this. We'll figure it out. And I remember just after getting off that conversation and hanging up the phone, just being like, God, I can't remember when's the last time I heard that. We will figure this out. Now, I'll just do it. I'll just figure this out. I got this. It was, we will figure this out. You have my support. You have me. I'm here with you. I don't care if we're in the dark. We'll find the light together. And I just something I always remember is just God, it was coming home. It was exactly, it was coming home. And I was just you're my mom. I don't know why it took me so long, a whole year by myself to figure it out, but you're my mom.
Lucia, how did you feel when you got that call and what went through your mind?
I think as we specialize in teenage girls, and we usually get them about 15 maybe, so we usually nurse them off to the point of independent living or transitional living or something. And so it's always painful to see them fly the coop. And especially with Palm, it hurt because we had planned, you're going to stay here. And because with treatment foster care, she had discharged, and actually her caseworker had called from grants and was like, hey, I'm headed down there. Make sure she's packed. Packed for what? She's discharged. Okay, where is she going? I'm going to take her to New Day shelter. I said, like, heck, you're going to take her to a shelter. We have bonded with her. We have grown. We have become a family together. And so she got there and she was like, all right, are you ready? And I was like, she's not going anywhere. And she was like, well, what do you mean she's not going? I said, she's a part of our family. She's not going to be going anywhere. And to see her leave in the fashion that she did was hurtful to our family, because our young girls had been attached to her and they were like, Mommy, where's Sissy? And because our girls have only ever known older sisters in the home. And they asked, where's Sissy? And well, Sissy's moved away. And that was a hard pill for all of us to swallow. But when we got the phone call, I was like, all right, it took you a while, but I knew you'd be back. And it was, our family was complete again. So that's yeah.
That's an absolutely beautiful line to kind of close us up on. I knew that was going to be my hardest part today, is like this HIIT workout of relationships. And I love that line, that our family was complete. I hope I apologize, everyone. I hope there's some good things in the chat. I had a little issue with my phone, so I couldn't see that. But thank you to all the resource families who are on. Thank you to my panelists, Pam and Ana Lucia, who really illustrate what QPI is. Ana Lucia is walking, breathing QPI, who says, when a young person comes in my home, the number one thing I'm going to give them is excellent parenting on their good days and on their bad days. And I just get so emotional about that, because knowing that so many kids in care don't have that opportunity. And so that you stood up and made that opportunity to be like, I'm going to be invested in these QPI values and principles. And I know so many of our resource parents who are listening in today are doing the same thing day in and day out, to work that is not easy, but is the most important work. And you may not have the experience where Palm came back and called and it worked out that Ana Lucia and our family adopted Palm at 24. Many of your resource parents, you'll never know the impact you're having on a young person in your home, especially when you prioritize excellent parenting and relationships for them. So often our systems think about safety, 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 and keeping kids safe. As someone who also grew up in care, I can tell you a young person will never be safe without relationships. They won't be safe at 2 years old, 10 years old, or 43 years old. They need relationships and they need connections with loving, caring adults. So I want to celebrate all our resource parents who are on tonight. Thank you. I thank my panelists. Thank you to New Mexico Department for doing this event. We were very proud at QPI to be part of it, and we are so proud to partner with QPI New Mexico. Krista, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Palm, Ana Lucia, and Terry for this panel discussion. There was so much heart in that conversation. If you've got questions, Terry will be able to access the Q&A feature on her app. As a reminder, we appreciate it if you take a few moments to complete our session feedback. And for those who would like to receive a certificate of completion for this session, please keep an eye out for an email with a link to request your certificate of completion. Please remember that certificates of completion will be emailed out within 30 days of completing your online request. Recordings of week 1 and 2 sessions are posted in the Whova app. They're available now. Click on the agenda, go to the session that you want to view, and you can view the recording there. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please note that a recording of the session will be posted soon, and we look forward to seeing you back next week for our final session with Janessa Garay's keynote in Getting Up to Speed on ICWA and IFPA, and a roundtable conversation with Shelley Begay and Cynthia Aragon. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great evening.